Hello, everyone. I want to speak about the Vezot Habracha, this isn't directly linked to the parsha. This builds off the other parshiot. However, given that this is the last parsha of the Torah, that also means it's our goodbye to Moshe Rabbeinu, and we're not going to see him for probably another few months. So I think it's worthwhile to at least come to some greater appreciation of who Moshe was, what his greatness was. We see at the end of Vezot Habracha on 34:5, Vayamat Moshe Eved Hashem Beretz Moav al Pi Hashem. And Eved Hashem is the title actually given to very few people. Even throughout all of Tanakh, Moshe is one of them, and of course he was the ultimate Eved Hashem. And as we see, V'lokam Navi Od we're just going to Pasuk 10. V'lokam Navi Od B'Yisrael Kemoshe Asher Yadeo Hashem Panim El Panim, right? And no other prophet arose like Moshe, who knew God face to face. L'chol ha'otot v'muftim asher shlacho Hashem la'asot beretz Mitzrayim lefaro l'chol avadav v'l'chol arto v'l'chol hayad ha'chazaka l'chol ha'morah ha'gadol asher asa Moshe le'nei kol Yisrael. So we're talking about all the great signs and wonders that Moshe did in Egypt, along the way as well. It seems to be focusing exclusively on Egypt, but the point is he was the greatest. Now, what are we supposed to take from this? Okay, what he did was so long ago. Like, how do we understand prophecy? So I want to go back to Parshat Behalotcha, really at the very end, when Miriam and Aaron, or rather Miriam spoke negatively about her brother Moshe to Aaron, and how the pasuk deals with it. So it says, after she spoke ill of him, because I think he married someone else, even though he was not able to be with his first wife, because he constantly had to be ready to receive a prophecy from Hashem. So it says, B'halotcha in Bamidbar, Perek Yud Bet, Pasuk Gimel, right, 12:3. V'ha'ish Moshe anav me'od mikol ha'adam asher al pnei ha'adama, right? And the way article translates that is, now the man Moses was exceedingly humble, more than any person on the face of the earth. Right? So one of the explanations is, why are we talking about his anava? Because he didn't want to defend himself. Like Miriam was saying these things, and he was too humble to step up and, not to step up, but to come back to the be like, no, that's not true. Actually, what I'm doing is correct. He's too humble. Rav Bernstein points something out. I'm sure he quotes this based on Gemaras. I do not remember which ones, but I heard this from him about 2 years ago, and it's a powerful message, and it really stayed with me. So I'm hoping to share that message. So hopefully it will affect you more deeply. So if we look at this pasuk, we see Anav is actually spelled Ein Nun Vav, right? And interestingly, I think later on in the Tanakh, when we're talking about Shmuel Hanavi, right, who's an extraordinary prophet, the way it's spelled, how Anav he was Ein Nun Yud Vav, right? So the full spelling of Anav. Anav is really supposed to be spelled that way. It has to have a Yud. Here it does not have a Yud. So I think this is in the Gemara. One of the ways this is explained is that in a way Shmuel was actually more Anav than Moshe. Why? We just have Moshe Anav Me'od Mikol Ha'adam Asher al Pnei Ha'adama. He's the most humble man. So we say, that was back then. But later on we have Shmuel Hanavi. So that's one of the things to say. So how can we explain that Shmuel was more humble than Moshe? So what's the explanation given? Because Shmuel actually went out to the people, right? So Moshe, in order for people to accept Moshe's judgment, to come to him with his cases, the people came to Moshe, and Moshe sat as a dayan, and people came to receive judgment from him. Shmuel did not do that. Shmuel went out to the people. He made himself available, so the people didn't have to come to him. He went out to them, and that's what made him Anav, so Anav that he's spelled properly with the Ein Nun Yud Vav. Here, Moshe Anav Me'od, that there was lacking a Yud, because Moshe didn't have that full meat of Anava. He didn't go out to the people. Well, the question is, why not? After that, Moshe was actually like a king of Israel. He was a melech, and there's a special halacha by melachim, by kings. Kings are not allowed to be mochel their kavod. Right? A father is. So children owe their parents, owe them kavod, right? You can't sit in their chairs, right? They're fixed seats. We don't sit there. We do not address them by their first names. There are certain halachas that you're not allowed to address your parents in a certain way. Your parents can be mochel that kavod. Parents can allow their children to sit in their chairs. Fine. So too with the Rebbe, as in with your main Torah teacher, the person who you've learned the most from, right? Who's really like been your spiritual guide. There's the same kind of kavod that exists by our parent as by your Rebbe, right? But so too a Rebbe can be mochel his kavod. A king is not allowed to be mochel his kavod. In the Masechta, in the tractate Sanhedrin, in the third parak, there are specific mishnah that discuss how severe this is in terms of what a king is allowed to do and what he's not allowed to do. Even the Kohen Gadol, right? Like I don't know how to explain this. The greatest of the Kohanim, right, at the time of the Beit HaMikdash, right, the Kohen Gadol was allowed to be mochel his kavod to an extent that a king was not. Moshe was not allowed to be mochel his kavod. He cannot go to the people. Now, we're going to Parshat Vayelech, what we learned just a few weeks ago, in Dvarim 31. So Rav Bernstein points out, look at the greatness of Moshe. So you see, in 31, Pasuk 2, V'yomer alehem, and Moshe said to the people, Ben 120 shana anochi hayom lo uchal od latzet v'lavo, right? V'Hashem amar elai lo tavor yarden hazeh. So Moshe said, I'm 120 years old today. Now, what does that mean? That then was his death day. Even though this is coming from a few parashiyot ago, we learned that day was his death day because Moshe was died on the same day. Moshe died on the same day he was born. So at exactly 120 years, he passed away. So this is his death day. Now, we say that on the day a king dies, he is no longer a king. Right? So now, as of this day, right, on the last day of his death, Moshe is no longer king. And what do we see? What's the first word in that parsha? Vayelech Moshe, Vaydaber et hadvarim ha'ele kol Yisrael. And Moshe went and he spoke these things to Bnei Israel. Why are we speaking about this? Because Moshe went out to the people. Why was he able to go out to the people? He was a king. Not today. Today was his last day. He's no longer a king. He no longer has to be makbid or his kavod. So Moshe went out to the people. He was the humblest of men. Before he couldn't go out because he was not allowed to go out. Because there's a halacha that said he's not allowed to go. He's like a king. He's not a king. He's allowed to be mochel his kavod. He's mochel his kavod. That's a lesson we learned from Moshe Rabbeinu. Greatest, we won't see him for the next few months, but Baruch Hashem, we can take this lesson with us forever. Chag Sameach, all the best.